Welcome to the Branded Impact Podcast. On this show, we go beyond surface level branding, honest conversations with industry leaders, behind the scenes of aligned brand building, and actionable insights to help you elevate your presence. I'm your host, Jocelyn Espejo, aka Joe. Hit subscribe and join me each week for the Branded Impact Podcast. What would change if your brand was truly built around your values? If growing fast, building a team, and trying to do it without burning out, this conversation is for you. Today, I'm joined by Katherine Covino, Chief Strategy Officer,
Athena Actuarial Consulting.
I'm joined with her today to talk about values-driven branding, sustainable growth, and what it looks like to lead as a corporate mom in a high-performance role. So, Katherine, I know that this is all based on your founder, but can you share a little bit about why Athena was founded and how you guys have built a values-driven company?
Sure. So thanks so much for having me here today with you, Joe. A little over 5 years ago, our founder, Adrian Lieberthal, a pretty set up role at one of the big four firms. She was doing great. Her clients loved her. Her teams loved working with her. But she had a vision of, could things be done differently? Could she create a woman-owned business at the time that led with values? Could she create a consulting firm that you didn't have to be burnt out when you showed up for your clients and you could come up with new and creative ways in some typical consulting paths? So she founded Athena Actuarial Consulting. Athena was chosen as the name specifically at the time related to the goddess Athena, who has a tie to mathematics, which we can get into about actuaries and what we do and the mathematics component of that, and a goddess that had courage. You know, she was the goddess of war in times of not starting wars, but protecting people. So this vision of the goddess who was protecting of her people was part of our founder's story. Fast forward 5 years, and Athena and our founder, Adrian, defined 5 values that we wanted to have as a company, and how we show up every day to serve clients, how we show up to serve each other, and how we operate. And those values are passionate, courageous, curiosity, empathetic, and reliable. And we defined our values, like our actual performance management system, like each of us are rated on operating within our values every year. It's part of almost every company conversation we have. But what we were struggling to do was, how do we tie our brand to our values? How do we tie our values into our story? And through working with a firm like in your industry, like yourself, we realized that our story was really centered around that value of courage, and the courage to reframe the future, the courage to do things differently, the courage to approach consulting problems differently. So courage ultimately became the theme between our values and our story, but all of our values are at play every day.
That's amazing. And I love that you mentioned that you rebranded, but you're rebranding into really pulling in the values at the forefront. And I think a lot of times in business, we talk about mission and vision statement, and you talk about your core values, but a lot of times most people in the company don't even know what they are. It's something that got tied up in the official development of the business, but then they don't get integrated into play. And so you mentioned you guys actually talk about it in almost every business conversation, and you guys are even evaluated on your core values.
Correct. Yeah, we actually have them on our website now as part of our story and who we are, publicly out there for both future employees and future clients to know what our values are, how we operate every day. You know, we have a monthly meeting called Athena in Action. It's our monthly all hands meeting. We are headquartered in Minneapolis with an office in DC, but we are a remote first company. So it's our way of getting everyone at the company together once a month. And usually we are talking somewhere in there in our values, whether it's an update from our CEO or our COO. Every May, we actually get together in person for our annual Athena gathering, which is wish we could do more gatherings with the whole company throughout the year, but our founder gives a values speech every annual gathering about reminding of why she founded this company, reminding us of the values and what we're striving to do here. So our values are very ingrained in our day to day. And with our rebrand, we also put them on our public website.
That's really cool. And I think it's inspiring to see. So I think one of the things that you guys mentioned is that you've more than doubled revenue and you're on track to do it again. So, what role has branding played in supporting that growth without burnout? Because I think that's the key. It's without the burnout.
Yeah. Why we did this rebrand was we couldn't articulate our secret sauce of why was talent coming to Athena. Like myself, I had been at my prior company for nearly 13 years, and that story wasn't unique that we were attracting talent from great companies, but there was something drawing us to Athena. And then there was something drawing our clients to at first maybe take a chance on more of a startup consulting firm to stay with us, for clients to notice this difference. And we really tie it back to, it sounds novel, avoiding burnout in the consulting industry. You know, a lot of our prior experiences, and you're just tired and you're showing up to client meetings and conferences and brainstorm sessions. And when you're tired, when you're burnt out, you're not coming up with the best creative solutions in the consulting industry. So, this idea that we're not on autopilot, that we're not burned out, which we also put publicly on our website as part of like our story, it really resonates with our people and with our clients. And it lets us come up with really creative solutions. You know, there are really technical methodologies that actuaries work through that are standards across all industries, but there's creative ways of applying things. There's new challenges. We work a lot with different benefit programs. There's new leave programs and new regulations coming out that impact benefit programs, and having the capacity to not be burnt out and actually think about creative ways leads to curiosity, which is another one of our values too, of having the capacity to think about questions and insights that maybe would have otherwise been uncovered if we were on that burnout hamster wheel. So avoiding burnout has become a core goal of our company. We structure just even how we have our PTO is a little bit different than a typical company in terms of we have a set number of weeks, and then it's kind of like an annual hours. So versus others in our company have a lot of different others in our industry have a lot of different requirements that kind of lead to some of that burnout. So it really is at the core of what we do, of making sure we're living our values and we have the mental capacity to do so.
I find that if I'm exhausted or running a million miles a minute and trying to squeeze it all in, that's when the burnout does come. And I think entrepreneurship or a corporate role or a consulting, like everybody gets to the point if you're not careful and you don't put the boundaries in, that you're just at this of like, I want to burn it all down. This was great. It was fun to a point, and then now not so much. And I even find in seasons of rest where I give myself the permission to slow down, to shut everything down, that's when usually within the next 24 to 48 hours, I have like aha moments where I'm like, this is what I can do to shift or pivot, or this is what the idea that's finally come to mind because I took the time to rest. So curious, what are some of the tactical things? Like, how do you guys avoid burnout within your company? It's a novel idea, at least coming from an entrepreneur
Yeah.
role where I'm like, I love the idea of it. But as you're building and you're scaling and now your founder has an entire team. What are you guys doing to make sure that you're not burning out?
Yeah, so a couple things. So one really tactical thing that we do in accordance with our HR manager, we monitor everyone's hours. So we don't just look for are any individuals falling behind on their target hours, but we look at who's ahead of their target hours, who's actively working longer hours than what were expected, and do we have a plan for them to recapture that time, meaning they're going to take half days on Fridays in the summer to recover some of those hours, or they're going to take additional vacation or time away with their family to recover those hours. So at some other firms, some of us experience more of the focus on if you were behind on your hours, and then you had a lot more eyes. But this focus on, we actually are looking at people who are getting too far ahead. Now, some things we do when we're looking at those things is, okay, do we need to restaff or add staff to some of our engagements? Do we have a team member who's starting to get stretched too thin across clients? Can we add more support? Can we hire to help support that team? Maybe the workload has increased versus just saying, we'll get through it, and some of this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It could happen over a series of weeks and months, but it's this weekly monitoring. We have weekly dashboards to make sure we're not missing any of these problems. And then, sometimes there are situations with clients where we still lean in. It's not that we only work 40 hours, certainly not. We'll lean in, we'll get the work done, we'll come up with our solution, but then we'll take time to recover before jumping into the next problem. So I think it's that recovery piece that's also key for us versus just to keep going, 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 and then our solutions may not be as good. So it's just something we hold ourselves accountable for too as an executive team. Like we are constantly aware of it. And we've also done some studies too, or read some books on leadership too about, how can you get to the peak level of performance without burning teams out? And there are a lot of books that cover this, but one philosophy is that things start with trust. So you have trust with your team, whether that's your leadership team or your project team. And then on top of trust, you kind of are able to then have healthy conflict and then all the way up to performance. And there's just a lot of studies that if you hit performance without having the trust, you're working a lot harder typically. But if you have a trusting environment, you can say if you're struggling, you can say if you need help, you're spinning your wheels and not coming up with a solution, or you're working insane hours and we need help as a team to figure this out. It really goes back to that trust. So we do a lot of different activities as a company to build our trust and transparency with each other as colleagues and teammates that probably also built into that burnout avoidance.
I like that. I think one of the key things that I'm taking away from this piece of the conversation is just it's what you're measuring. So I think a lot of times we get caught up in the doing the day to day and we focus on, and a lot of times it's revenue generating or delivery, right? So are we delivering what we need to for the client, whatever that looks like, if you're a consultant or a service provider or whatever. I do believe that it's what you measure that really can get attention. And so there are going to be seasons, like you're saying, there are going to be seasons where we may have to go all in and we may not be able to work a shorter work week. But then if and when that happens, you're being intentional about making sure that there's recovery time on the front end of it. It's not you just powered through and then now everything resumes to normal work hours. There's time built in to recover where you had to go above and beyond and then build it in. And I've been joking lately that if it's not on the calendar, it's not going to happen. And so being intentional, at least for me, to actually put in space, but it's a block on my calendar where I'm like, and I have it listed like a flourish and something recovery because I'm like, I know, especially on weeks where I've had a lot of sessions and a lot of meetings and I've been on the go, if my kids are very active and I know I'm not resting because that's something I'm walking into a tournament season. And so I know I'm going to be going all week long, all weekend long to turn around. And so then I'm like, I've got to build this time in. And if I don't put it into the calendar, it's definitely not going to happen. So
Yeah,
being aware that you're structuring yourself in a way to avoid the burnout. But in order to do that, you guys are measuring both sides of it. Are we delivering? And are we over delivering? Because that's when we have to decide what can we cut back, what can we adjust. That's really neat. I think
correct.
that is a different take. That's not something I've usually heard. It's usually you're measuring where are we falling behind? And you hear this a lot. People will take and take and take, and they're measuring whether or not you worked your 40. But a lot of times people are not paying attention to whether or not you're working over.
Correct. Yeah. It is really a different measurement and it's part of our weekly scorecard. We have financial measures, revenue, client utilization, some of the typical consulting measures. But yeah, looking at our people's hours, not just under and the over, is something we look at. And, we look at turnover. We look at things that really we want our people to stay. We want our people to feel that they can have a career at Athena and also do all the things they want to do to be fulfilled outside of work, not that they're choosing one or the other. And just recognizing flexible ways in which we can support that. We have some team members that we just know in their schedule, like they would want to pick up their kids from school and they're going to be off starting at 3:30 and then maybe come back on later that night. Like that's what their workday looks like. We have other colleagues who maybe are in periods of being caregivers for their parents. And what does that look like and flexibility that they need? We also have people who have hobbies and like to travel the world. And how do we accommodate when they want to be gone for, an extended period of time and make sure their clients and teams are still covered? So, in addition to the weekly scorecard, just kind of hearing, you speak, Joe, reminded me of also the flexibility that we try and let everyone build their day, how it works for their family, their teams, their clients, so that we still get the work done, but we have flexibility in how we fit everything in our week, which I think is also another thing that helps avoid the burnout.
That's yes, because you're allowing them to do it in ways that make sense versus trying to be stressed into a different environment. So curious, what made you want to rebrand to bring this in?
Some of it was an evolution of the business from, when our founder, Adrian, had the courage to start this. She started it and was a one woman shop. And then slowly over time, it's grown. In over 5 years, we have enough today, we're at 29 or 30 professionals. That's pretty incredible growth
That's
in
incredible.
5 years from a vision she had in an industry that's pretty saturated. The consulting industry has a lot of large companies and players. So to have this success is huge. And we had trouble articulating what was this special secret sauce that Athena had. Why did we all come here? When Adrian told me she was founding the company, I was just like, courage is like the word that really defines that,
Yeah.
of like, she had such courage to do that. And I remember thinking like, I would never leave. Like that takes a lot of courage. And slowly we found like a lot of us were following the Athena journey. And years later, some like myself and others, we became part of it after following it for years. And so what was it that was attracting us? What was it that, our clients were saying they noticed a difference? And we felt that our current website and our current way of articulating our story, it just wasn't encompassing what this feeling was. Like we just couldn't define it. So we worked with a company called Open Book that really was going to help us tell our story. And they interviewed multiple employees and leaders, even some external folks to the company, and the theme that they said they kept hearing throughout was courage. Every single story was around courage. And so this theme around courage to reframe the future was born. And then we articulated, like, okay, well, what are all the ways we're different from the firms out there? Like, why would a client want to come to us versus company A? We're doing the same technical work, but what makes us different? And so wanting to articulate that in a clear way to our clients and future employees and our teaming partners led us to go through this, rebrand journey as we kind of hit this new phase of maturity. We were hitting our 5 year anniversary, had evolved into a boutique consultancy firm from a one person shop. And so it just felt like the right time to figure out why we had that growth and why we were going to keep having that growth. So our rebrand just helped us articulate all that. And, we're very technical people. I'm actually the CPA at the actuarial firm, but we are technical. And so this creative thinking of like, why are we different? Or, it really helped us to bring in, a company in your industry and help us kind of externally think through all this.
Yeah, it's when you're outside of your wheelhouse, it's like, okay, listen, I know that we need. And so it sounds like there's just a disconnect. What started 5 years ago as a one woman show has evolved. And so then now, and branding is a journey. And I think, and there were some questions we had you fill out before the podcast, and you actually mentioned that branding takes time, feedback, and notes. And so asking the questions, paying attention to the fact that you knew there was a disconnect, you weren't able to articulate it. So then you went and got help from somebody in the industry that could listen to what you're saying and then put that into words that made sense so that somebody that's not techie can read it and
Yeah.
understand. I think that's great. But I honestly, what I want to point out from this is that a lot of times people think that branding is done. They think that they do their branding, they get a website, they get a logo, they get the colors, and they're like, cool, we're done. I Branding evolves. Branding takes as your business grows, as people grow. And so even if you're still after 5 years a one woman show or a one person show, you probably have changed and evolved. And so I encourage people to consider branding an evolving journey. And you have to what are you offering now versus then? What do you know more? And a lot of times one of the best ways to do it is to listen to what people are saying about you. So I think it's really cool that they went out and then interviewed the team and external people, because that's the best way. And I know I've used reviews. So if you're listening, you're like, cool, I don't have a team, I'm a one woman show. I don't know. Take a look at the reviews. Take a look at what people are saying about you, and if you haven't gotten reviews yet, go and ask them. Like, "Hey, can you give me a review? Let me know." And then look at the words that people are using to describe your business, and then that is how your branding is coming across, and then decide, does it align? Hopefully it does. And then if it doesn't, you need to pivot. But if it all aligns, then you can find the words to use that help you describe it. So
Yeah, I love that. Hopefully it does align and you're not surprised that, they think you're not in a different industry or something. But yeah, for us when the company we worked with unveiled kind of the results of all the interviews, they actually captured this screenshot of us on Zoom, myself, our COO Lauren, and our CEO and founder Adrian. And our faces just looked like in awe and like emotional, like wow, we had this wow look. And they sent this screenshot like months later to us when the initial work with them was done. But for us, it just was kind of a wow aha moment when we got those results. And it was incredible.
aha, like, yes, that's it. They nailed it. Like, that's exactly what we
Yeah.
wanted people to feel. And so we've done a good job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. The, you articulated it for us, the secret sauce, what we were struggling to convey, this idea around courage and kind of doing things differently and kind of taking a risk and leaving larger firms and coming to more of a startup firm, but also this reframe around like reframing the future. Like we want to do things differently. Like sometimes we come in to clients who've had the same actuarial firms supporting them maybe like 15 plus years.
Wow.
And we have a few aha moments for our clients like, oh, have you thought about this? We know this. Have you heard about that? And it's just incredible that clients are, wow, no one ever mentioned that to us before. And so this something around the reframe and our ability to kind of uncover things so they're maybe hidden to others. It all just made sense to us. Yeah, this concept of courage and reframing and doing things differently. They nailed it.
Well, I think that's the heart behind what Adrian wants, right? So, like the showing that you can have balance between wanting to have a career and success and still be a mom or a caregiver if that's the direction that you want to take. So, what advice would you give to women who want growth and balance, but maybe don't necessarily want to start over completely?
Yeah. I mean, I did a little bit of a career pivot last year, not in terms of consulting industry, but leaving a firm I'd been at for nearly 13 years and joining Athena. And for me, a lot of that decision was that what I wanted evolved as I became a working mom. And I had progressed through my career previously looking for the promotion and it was very tied to the title I wanted. And at some point it changed. And I think I woke up one day and was like, what is the point of all this? Like, I actually want to go to gymnastics class. I want to enjoy my weekends with my family. And I also want to be really successful and accomplish things for my clients and have a career. And how can I do it all? How can I make it work. And I think I've had an evolution over the last year of like, it's hard to do it all. Your time is a pie and you only have so much time. And so
Yep.
sometimes your work piece is bigger and sometimes your life piece is bigger. But in talking to Adrian, our founder, she knew that was important to me. And I started to see that this could be a place where I could have a successful career. I'm blessed to be and very grateful to be on our executive team and the privilege that comes with that of helping make decisions that guide our company and impact our employees and clients. And then I also am a mom. And so I've really been able to blend more of my world here. And this is like the first time in my career that I have so many women leaders in a room and at the table with me. And I had great male mentors and sponsors throughout my career. I'm really lucky, but there is a little bit something different when you're with people who've walked in your shoes. So maybe that's part of it. But I think the other part is some evolution I've done too of how to do this balance. And there's a lot of great influencers and content creators out there who are really showing how to be a woman executive and a mom and the trade-offs that come with that. So like Janelle Teves and Kelly Nolan, there's many others, Catherine Capro. I started following these women this year on social media, and they've helped influence how I approach just hearing other stories of how can you do it all? I guess back to Athena, like, everyone like sees each other's families, friends on different teams posts we do. My daughter has been in the background on some very important calls, and it's just the life we have. And I think we've tried to figure out a way to integrate life and work in a way that works for each person. That integration is just really unique in a way that I think helps us do it all here. And it looks different for every employee, how you want work and life to integrate.
Well, it sounds like the permission to pivot, right? So when I first got out of college, I had a different vision for what my life was going to look like. I know 100%. I remember telling my husband I'm never going to be a stay-at-home mom. Like I will have a career and I will. And then I started never really fully leaned in wanting being a full-time stay-at-home mom. That wasn't my game. Priority shifted. The corporate chasing the title, what my definition of success looked like shifted. And then it sounds like there's so many of us now that are trying to change the name of the game. And so if you're sitting listening and you don't want to necessarily start all over, maybe consider pivoting into a different type of firm. So it sounds like a lot of you guys are still doing the same thing. You're just now working for somebody different that's allowing you and giving you that flexibility and that freedom. Adrienne had the courage to step out and create it. And then now she's building a team. So you've got different options. It may not even necessarily be you have to step out and create all your own. It could be looking for somebody who's doing it and joining the team. Or maybe if there isn't one, it is creating it. Do you have the courage to step out and create the life that you want? I think that's a big piece. And then giving yourself the permission to know that you could evolve and what you wanted a year ago could be very different and it doesn't have to stay the same. If what you wanted doesn't align with your values, I think that's ties into the conversation we had earlier where hopefully your clients are saying something that you want it to be, like that was what you decided. But I also do a pulse check and is the life that you created really what you wanted? And if it's not, then change, pivot, make a decision, and then start pursuing the life that you did. I think if you could give one piece of advice to a woman that's building her own brand, what would it be?
Take the time to understand your secret sauce and lean into it. Tie it to your values. If you have to think about even 3 values that you have as a person, not even, as an employee or founder, but just values that you live your life by. Maybe start there. Maybe think about how your values are what makes you different and give yourself the time to figure that out. I know not everyone can always, hire a firm to help them figure it out.
Right.
But I think every person brings something unique to the table, especially, fellow women listening to this, whether you're, a working parent or not, there's something unique that you have in your just by being you, just by showing up to the table, walking into the room, there's something you offer that no one else does. So maybe figuring out your values and what that is, even if it takes time, that's what helps you articulate your secret sauce.
Don't overcomplicate it. So I think this is something I used to hate the question, what makes you unique? Because I'm like, I don't know. I don't really do anything different than anybody else does. But at the end of the day, I do because I bring a different spin. The way that I look at it, the way that I listen, the way that I interpret, or my personality. Some people can jive with me versus somebody else. And that's where culture really comes into play. So I really love the evaluate what your secret sauce is, but don't overcomplicate it because it really is simply you. Just what makes you tick. Like, what is it that drives you? And I find being passionate about what you do makes everything so much easier because whether or not you are owning your own business, you're helping somebody else grow something else, you have to love what you do because if not, getting up every single morning to go do it makes it a drag. Like, that's no fun. So being passionate. So the secret sauce and then define it in words. And guys, yes, it'd be amazing to be able to hire a brand agency that can help you get to the point that does it. But it can also be as simple as what drives you? What is it that motivates you? And what sometimes the way that I like to reframe the question is, what do you want your clients to say about you? If you're not really sure what your secret sauce is or how do you elaborate on that, what would you love for someone to say about you? So working with you is like, and see if that helps. So I have a couple quick rapid fire questions I want to do with you
Okay.
before we wrap up today. And so I'm just going to make a statement and I would love for you to answer for me.
Okay.
Values driven branding really means what?
Showing up every day according to your values, no exceptions.
And it seems so simple, but it's not. Like, it's really having a list of what your values are. And then I know for me, the way that I've been able to implement this is running decisions I make by what my core values are. So is
Yeah.
this leading me towards that or away from it? So strong.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can have we have a little, sorry, this might not be going off the rapid fire answers, but we have
Well,
a
it's okay.
little card that you get when you start at Athena. And it has like, these are our 5 core values. We have stickers on our laptops. Like it's literally in front of you every day. And I think that really helps.
Uh, yes, it does. Because then you're not looking for them, it's in your face. So then
Yep.
it's not even just when you're making big decisions, it's every decision that you're making, you're reminded these are the core values that we're living by.
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna go print out my core values later and stick on my laptop. Okay, sustainable growth requires
Vision, planning, priorities, and trade offs.
trade offs. I haven't heard that one before. I feel like the other ones, I'm like, yep, that's pretty standard, but then laying in the trade offs. Okay. What's one word that you want people to associate with Athena?
Courage.
I had a feeling that was coming. I love it. And why courage? Like, how do you feel like courage applies to clients?
So, I mean, the work we do just in the industries we serve, we work in retirement and health industries, and our work impacts really goes down to the financial security, sometimes even healthcare access of citizens. And so these are complex topics that we deal with for clients. It sometimes can be easy to just do our actuarial or financial analysis and turn over the results. But the courage piece comes in because we're thinking about the impact of those results. What does that mean for the clients? What does that mean for the citizens? Are there other ways we can look at this? They're still actuarial sound. Are there next steps that we can help clients think through based on what the numbers say? So the courage comes in because it's could be number crunching in our field, but you have to take that step in the complex and help clients beyond that. And the courage to sometimes, um, you know, the results of the project aren't always the best news, but they're the best to get the clients in the long term where they need to go.
And then last one, leadership today looks less like hustle and more like
Alignment and vision.
alignment and vision. I really appreciate all of your time today, Katherine. If anybody has been listening and they want to know more about Athena, where can they find you?
You can find us on our website, athenaactuarial.com. We are also on LinkedIn, Athena Actuarial Consulting, and you can also reach out to me on my LinkedIn, Katherine Covino.
Thank you so much for all of your time and insight today. I am very, very inspired, not only by Adrienne and her courage to step out, but the fact that she's creating a space for so many others to be able
Yeah.
to do that. And it's alignment. You know, you said it earlier, there's only so much in a pie. And so there's going to be seasons where the job or what you're doing is going to take more of the pie. There's going to be seasons of the others, but the alignment, is it aligned with your values? And I think that is key to the takeaway that I'm walking away with from today's episode is really identify what your core values are. And then you and your team should embody them every day, every decision. And then hopefully, whenever they do a review or questions of your clients, they're embodying and reflecting that back. That's when you know you're winning. When your clients are able to say what you were hoping embodied everything about your business. So thank you again so much. If you've been listening and you know of somebody that could benefit from this episode, please share. Subscribe to listen to future episodes with amazing women in the world out there trying to make a difference. And as always, continue to go and make your branded impact. That's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Branded Impact Podcast. If today's episode sparked something in you, please take a second to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend who's ready to unlock their rebrand era. And if you're ready for a brand that's rooted in authenticity and built for impact, one that truly reflects your story, your energy, and your evolution, let's connect. Head to brandingbyjoe.com or DM me on Instagram at brandingbyjoe. Thanks for hanging out. Now get out there, show up with purpose, and make your branded impact. I'll see you next week.